Late tonight, we are learning the Education Department is opening up a civil rights investigation into Harvard and its policy of legacy admissions. You know legacy admissions, right? That's when schools give preferential treatment. They sort of give the edge to people whose families already went to the school. This whole issue of legacy admissions has been very much in the spotlight since the Supreme Court's ruling that struck down affirmative action. Some critics of that decision said essentially, well, okay, how is legacy admissions getting in because of your family allowed? Some advocacy groups say about 3/4 of those legacies who are white would not have gotten in if it wasn't for their status. Spots, they say, would have been given to other applicants otherwise. Harvard tells NBC News in a statement that it is in the process of reviewing its admission policies to make sure they comply with the law. Let me bring in Jake Ward, who is covering this story that is developing tonight for us. And it is an interesting one, Jake, because the Supreme Court striking down this affirmative action policy, huge deal, right? Monster headline. We covered it several weeks ago, end of June, when this happened, because it is significant for the way that, you know, the potential for it to reshape college admissions. There was talk even then of critics of this policy, advocacy groups for students of color, who said, well, wait a second, if you're going to take aim at affirmative action, you got to put legacy admissions in the spotlight, too, right? Talk us through this.
Well, that's right, Hallie. I mean, right, we're in a world in which, in theory, according to the logic of the Supreme Court in their recent decision, you know, admissions are supposed to be even. It should be merit-based and not take anything else into consideration. But as research after research has shown, there is so much more to it than we thought, right? It turns out that being admitted to one of those top 12 or so universities and colleges, whether it's Ivy League colleges or places like Stanford or MIT, makes a tremendous difference to your financial prospects. And it turns out now, as the spotlight is coming in on Harvard, that it is not the world we or the Supreme Court has been insisting we live in. You know, we are not living in a place where it's all merit-based. It turns out, according to multiple complaints now, that it is far from a simply merit-based system. It has everything to do with prior advantages in life, and that's, of course, what we're looking at tonight.
Some schools have already started getting rid of this, right? The New York Times had a report now about how much the top schools, they're pointing out sort of how this policy gets into place. I'll tell you, it went viral on my feeds, this sort of assessment of the way that legacy admissions works. Talk us through that.
Well, that's right. I mean, you now have several universities, including my alma mater, Wesleyan University, along with Amherst and others, deciding that they are going to do away with legacy admissions. You have everyone, you know, on that list there saying that they recognize that this is an unfair treatment. I mean, you've got to think about, right, the stats that go along with the complaint that we're seeing from the Department, the investigation that we're seeing from the Department of Education now into Harvard-specific policies. You know, they are looking at numbers that really are pretty shocking, right? If you look at the 2019 class alone, nearly 30% of those admissions are legacy or donor-based admissions. And when you look, I mean, as you said, that cited quote there from a study out of Duke University found that at Harvard, 3/4 of people who were either donor children or legacy children or athletes would not have been admitted. Those are white applicants who would not have been admitted. The other one, you know, that really shocked me, I'm looking down at the complaint here is, you know, the donor-related applicants are nearly 7 times more likely to be admitted than non-donor-related applicants, and legacies are nearly 6 times more. So, you know, if you just cast our mind back, Hallie, to that, you know, decision and the arguments being made in the Supreme Court that somehow we're going to live in this world in which these you know, things other than merit are not going to be taken into account, it just turns out we are so far from that, and that seems to be why this investigation is underway.
Jake Ward, thank you very much for your reporting and for bringing this to us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.